Are you ready?
Yo guys, this is Fighter Flight Gabriel Skye, and you can listen to my episode of SOW Wrestling on B Plus Player Radio and BodyPlans.net anytime you want to, starting now.
Is that the message you got? We about to go live, are you ready to rock? So take a shot, boy. Is that the message you got? From the fans to the fans, let me hear the crowd pop. So take a shot, boy. Is that the message you got? We about to go live, are you ready to rock? So take a shot, boy. Is that the message you got? From the fans to the fans, let me hear the crowd pop. So take a shot. Oh yeah, so take a shot. Oh, so take a shot. Oh, so take a shot.
Family, welcome to another edition of A Shot of Wrestling, the interviews. If you've not done so already, follow us on all forms of social media at A Shot of Wrestling on Facebook and Instagram, and Shot of Wrestling, no A, on Twitter. You can also contact us via email at inbox@ashotofwrestling.com or dial it up 619-343-3005 and leave your comments on A Shot of Wrestling hotline. Now, if you're ready and willing, I'm able, and like we've said it time and time again, wrestling brings us together, and today is no different. Today, we are joined by one of the fastest rising talents in our area, Mr. Fight or Flight, Gabriel Skye.
Yo, what's up, guys?
What's up? How you doing, my man?
Feeling good, man. Feeling good. I'm feeling ready. Pumped.
Well, it's no
Ready to
pressure.
go.
It's just a shot of wrestling. We're just going to have some drinks. Now, I got to say, this is the earliest I've ever done an interview before, so this is like the first time I have coffee with me. What are you drinking on your end?
I drank my coffee today, but right now I'm drinking some Poland Spring, man. Can't go
Okay.
wrong with some H2O.
Well, as a wrestler, you got to keep yourself hydrated, right?
Absolutely. I usually drink like a gallon a day or...
Are you one of
Yeah.
those guys who carries those jugs with you?
Yeah, honestly, the last few months, that's been me, man. I've just been traveling with like a little like green gallon with me, filling up my water and just carrying it around looking like a lug. So that's been me, man.
Could you
Gotta
explain
admit.
it to me a little bit, though? Because I don't understand. Like, I understand you need to be hydrated, but why carry the jug of water?
True, but it's also just to like refrain from like keeping a small little water bottle and then like walking back and forth between the water fountain, filling it up, and carrying like, 3 water bottles or something with
Right.
you. Plus, like right before you go out for your entrance, you just pour the whole gallon on you and you just walk out. Which is, I've been known to do that too. People are just like, oh, there's a huge puddle of water over here. And I'm just like, yo, my bad, man. My bad.
You are one of those wrestlers who comes out with wet hair, kind of
Yeah.
like the Shield.
Yeah, man.
Is that something you learned in wrestling school? Did you just always think you were going to be one of those wet hair guys?
I don't know if I like always pictured myself to be one of those like wet hair guys, but I feel like it definitely helps maintain a look for me. It
What's the
helps me-
purpose?
honestly, for me, just to look good and feel good. I like going out there and feeling like nice and cool. If you have like a little nerves, like pouring that little bit of water on yourself helps
Mhm.
you just stay calm a little bit. And plus, like, it doesn't help to like make you look a little shinier on the abs and stuff like that.
One of the things I like when people come out with wet hair, that first punch you get hit by, and you like flip your hair back, and like the visual of it is so cool.
Oh yeah, that too, definitely makes everything look much more cinematic when you're in there.
Yeah. Well, we're getting already into these wrestling conversations, and when we started the show, I did say you were one of the fastest rising stars, and I am not lying about that. I mean, about a year ago, I think it's the first time we crossed each other's path at a BCW show. You were there supporting, your bros. You were there with Ring Crew, but that's when I first got to meet you. I didn't know you were a wrestler, and then you filled me in on everything you were doing. I feel like I blinked, and all of a sudden you were off. You were off to CZW. You were off to Beyond. Like, you were in so many places, and I'm like, holy shit, I feel like I just talked to him yesterday.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Yeah, it's been a real wild ride the last year. I've been able to do it with some of my best bros in the industry with Dom and Chris and Ty. You know, it's been a really crazy year, man. I'm really happy to have been able to cross a lot of things off my list and achieve some goals and work a lot of places like CZW and Beyond and ICW and BCW and all those kinds of stuff. It's been really just such a fun journey and such a learning experience. I can't wait to see like what else is in store for all of us. You know, wrestling is in such a great place right now. It's just like that, like exactly like you said. You're one moment you're just, you know, doing your regular stuff, and the next you're off to the races, man. You never know what can happen, especially nowadays.
So do you think there's anything that attributes to that? Because there's certain people who started around the same time that you have, who have not had that rocket behind them and gone as far as you've gone in this past year. There's also vets who've had an 8-10 year career and have not wrestled in promotions that, you know, are worthy enough for us to even talk about.
Definitely some stuff that attributes to it. I mean, I'm grateful to be in an area where there's a lot of top-notch independent wrestling companies around us, you know, in the Northeast and stuff. Like, all these places have top promotions where it's viable to achieve your goal. I definitely think that the area attributes to that, and I don't know, man. It's hard. It's hard because I definitely think starting at that age, too, at such a young age that we all started at, we were just able to really grab that brass ring and just run with it. I definitely think seizing that opportunity in the moment, when you're given that opportunity, you just run with it, man. It's hard. It's definitely different for everybody. I definitely know what you mean, but the area definitely attributes to that.
Now, you mentioned it's a great opportunity, but I could also imagine it could be a great disadvantage because you don't have that much experience and you're being given these big opportunities. And like you said, you have to take the brass ring and kind of run with it. But have you ever been put in a position where you're like, wow, too much too soon?
I don't think so. At least not yet, but definitely feeling those nerves at such a young age and being given like these huge stages to really perform and perfect my craft. It's definitely like, there's definitely been times where I'm like, man, like this is way bigger than I thought. Mm-hmm. I had those exact nerves when I was about to go out and wrestle Matt Cross. Like, I was just there trying to soak it in, and I'm like, man, like after all this time, like I'm here now, like wrestling someone that I look up to, wrestling someone that I grew up watching on the indie scene. So I definitely get a lot of those nerves still, but I'm sure as time goes on, like that stuff will make me feel more calm, I guess, because I'll be able to look back and learn from those experiences. But I don't think nerves in wrestling will ever go away, especially when you're performing at those high levels.
Yeah, from what I understand, also, if that nervousness and that energy right before you go through the curtain goes away, then it's probably time for you to go away because you're not as interested or as passionate about it anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Like those nerves definitely manifest itself in the ring in such a different way. It doesn't make you freeze up. Like it's weird the way that like nerves in wrestling work. It's like it's a different kind of nervous as opposed to getting stage fright. It's just like, man, like I hope I get to go out there and just do everything I want to do and be the best wrestler that I can be. And when you're in there, it shows like that energy manifests itself, and you're in there and you're punching, you're firing away, and you're just roaring and like you're in the moment, you know. It definitely manifests itself in different ways when you're in there, especially doing the moves and connecting with that crowd. Especially like that's what I love about wrestling. You just go out to be yourself times, 1,000. That's what I love, man.
Yeah. Now you're one of these high flyers that a lot of people love to see because the spots that you guys put out are like mind-boggling. Like, so is there any one spot that you're like, oh, this is a spot, man, I fucking love this. I could do Canadian Destroyers all day, baby.
I mean, I always like throwing my Bounce Rana in there every so often. Every few matches, I like to just, run to the opponent and they try to throw me out. But nope, I stand up right up on the top, bounce my ass on the top rope, come back around with a Rana.
Nice.
And, I always love to do some dives and, coast to coast and that kind of stuff. That's my that's my stuff, man. I love that.
How did you develop that as your in-ring style? Like, did someone say, all right, you're one of the smaller guys, so you have to be a high flyer?
I mean, a lot of people did look at me and just say, yeah, you're going to be a high flyer. But even before wrestling, like watching a lot of the guys that I looked up to, high flyers like Rey Mysterio and Jushin Liger and Hayabusa, like those guys, like I always watched them and was like, man, like I want to be like them. Like I want to do 450s. I want to do shooting star press. Especially watching those guys, I was like, I got to do something that's similar to that style and put my own twist on it. And I knew there was always something that I wanted to do and always, stuff I could do. I always was able to, like, backflips and front flips and that kind of stuff. So I was like, hey, like, why not use this in a wrestling ring? Like, why not?
Now, you said you
high
were,
risk.
sorry to interrupt, but you said you always used to do backflips and stuff like that? Do you have, like, a background in gymnastics?
Oh, man, I wish, but just like amateur stuff, I was always able to do, like, backflips and front flips into my pool. When I was a kid, I was able to do, like, standing backflips and that kind of stuff.
Wow.
But I don't know what happened as I grew older, but I was just like, I can't do it anymore.
I mean, come on, your parents must have been like, all right, he's either going to be a gymnast or a wrestler.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of your family, what does your family think about you wrestling?
Man, they're incredibly supportive. I couldn't thank them enough. It's honestly because of my dad that I love wrestling so much. But I was kind of just like born into that fandom because he was already a fan, and my mom kind of loved wrestling too. So to grow up with that kind of around me and always have like these wrestling toys and like posters and DVDs and tapes, like I was kind of just like born into it.
Wow.
In a way.
Mm-hmm.
And to grow up with that, I was like, man, like, why don't I do this? Like, why not I just pursue this? It's something that I really love and something I really enjoy. Like, I have to be a part of this. So to have that support from my family and for them to go from being a fan all those years ago to seeing now that their son is like a wrestler, it means a lot to have that support and have that backing. So I'm very grateful for that.
Are they afraid at all that, like the darker side of wrestling, obviously the injuries come into play? It's not the safest business.
Yeah, it's true. My mom, when she comes to my shows, she's always a little scared watching me doing all these flips and kind of stuff. Like, I'll always go back on tape and see, like, I can see the exact moment I see my mom, wincing in pain as she's seeing her son get chopped or, getting slammed on the outside. So, they're always a little, not scared, but I guess trying to make sure that I'm precautious when I'm out there, or they're always a little concerned. But I always like to make sure that they know I'm perfectly fine, or at least I'm a little fine,
Since you were raised in a household with wrestling around, did your parents take you to wrestling events before you became a wrestler?
Yeah, I was taken to a lot of wrestling shows before I started wrestling. I always went to like the house shows that were in the area, if it was like at MSG or Nassau Coliseum, or I would just go to like local shows for shows that I'm working at now, like
really
CZW and I remember NYWC when they were in my area. I would go and see them. So like
with your parents, or this was already like on your own?
Yeah, with my parents.
Oh wow, that's
like when
freaking
I was
cool,
like,
man.
11, 12 years old, I would try and go to like small indie shows around here. So I definitely think that also attributed to me becoming a wrestler as well.
So being a young independent wrestling fan and now being in the position where, you're the entertainer, how does that feel? Like, how's that process in your mind of like, wow, like I was at one moment on the other side of the guardrail?
Definitely surreal. It's definitely been a surreal experience, especially to go from being on one side of the guardrail to being on the other side in such a fast process has definitely been surreal, especially to, like I said before, being companies that I used to watch all these years ago as a fan to now being able to work backstage for these guys and perform on their huge shows. It's like, it's definitely surreal. It's definitely an honor, especially because, I love wrestling so much. So to be able to be a part of that and to work with guys that I grew up watching, definitely a surreal experience. And I'll always have that, that fandom within me. But as a former man, like, it's just an honor, definitely an honor.
Being backstage now, you've probably shared the locker room with a lot of people that you admire or look up to. Is there anybody that you've been starstruck by or like, holy shit, I can't believe I'm in this locker room with fill in the blank?
Let's see. Yeah, I have shared a lot of locker rooms with a lot of different wrestling stars and a lot of ones that have, quote unquote, made it. But in terms of starstruck, maybe Hall and Nash. When I got to work a few SCW shows with them, with Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, I was always like, man, that's crazy. Scott Hall and Kevin Nash are here. It's the Outsiders. that was not her to just go up to them and be like, hey, introduce yourself and shake their hand and just, make sure you're not bothering them or whatever. That was always a cool experience to be able to share a locker room with those guys.
That's wild. That's wild. Big fan of that era of wrestling, which brings me into my next point. What I feel the best era of wrestling is the one we're in right now. How do you feel being part of this era, and what are some of the things on your side of the fence as a talent that you think are pros, and some of the things you think are cons about this like big boom in professional wrestling?
To be a performer right now, where wrestling is, it's definitely, like I said, in such a crazy place right now where wrestling is, where any given moment you're given that brass ring and you just gotta don't look back, you just gotta run with it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of different people are getting opportunities everywhere, anywhere that you look. Wrestlers even younger than me are getting these top-notch like spots in different places. So to be a performer right now in wrestling, it's definitely an exciting time to be a part of it, and it's also moving really fast, which is a little nerve-wracking, especially for someone like me who's like, man, like hopefully one day I get to, be on a global stage where I can perfect my craft and really be given that platform to see like guys younger than me, like, man, like hopefully I get to that one day. But yeah, to be a part of wrestling right now, it's, especially as an indie wrestler, definitely a crazy time. I can't wait to see what it's like in, the next 1 year or 2 years, because things are always changing in wrestling. It's definitely different than what it was.
Yeah. And like you said, it's moving so fast.
Yeah, man, it's crazy.
One of the stories that I want us to talk about now that hasn't been moving so fast is ZZW. Now, CZW has been known for, back in the Sandig days of, a lot of hardcore wrestling. It has a lot of a cult following to them. Now, in the last few years, a lot of things have changed. DJ Hyde definitely has changed the product, and a lot of different faces have come into the product. Some that a lot of the fans are supportive of, and some that hardcore audience is not. How do you feel being at CZW where there is that change, there is that turnover, and you getting either, it feels kind of polarizing sometimes, because as talent, you either have fans who are very supportive of you guys being there, but then it's like, oh, fuck these guys, they're here to change what I grew up and loving, and now it's a brand that I don't want to support anymore.
Yeah, it's definitely a drastic change from, or maybe not so drastic, but definitely different than what it was in, let's say, in 2002, 2003, even just like 2010. CZW has definitely changed it up over the last few years, and like I said, it's not what it was maybe even just a few years ago. But guys like myself and Ty and Dom and Chris, and I know Young, Dumb, and Broker, working to make this one of the hottest brands in the industry again, because to work with CZW is definitely a cool thing, especially if you grew up being a fan. But to make this brand even hotter, that's something that we're all going to work for, and that's definitely something that we're all going to work toward, I know, for the next few years. And like you said, like maybe some of the hardcore audience isn't as interested as they are now, but I know that we're working to make sure that we can get that hardcore audience, we can become one of the hottest brands, like I said, in the U.S. again at some point. So to definitely perform at that level, especially for CZW, it's been a wild ride, and I can't wait to see what's in store for them over the next few years.
What is one of the things that you guys have been either in conversation about or been doing in the ring that is going to make CZW that hottest brand again?
Definitely performing, like I said, at such a high level and bringing something different to every CZW show. Even just working Dojo Wars, we try and do something different every week. We try to show our individuality and uniqueness every time we're there. To be at this stage in CZW and to perform at the level that we're at, we're definitely going to try and up the ante every single time we're there in a way that maybe most CZW fans haven't seen, whether if it's me and Tristan Ty tagging or if we're in some kind of hardcore match, if it has to be. We're definitely going to try and bring our style to it and our flavor to it, as opposed to what maybe fans have already seen already. We want to be different, and we want to stand out and leave our mark on what CZW is now, and not even just CZW, but just independent wrestling as a whole. So that's definitely one thing I'm aiming for and working toward.
Well, I definitely bought in, and when I had my conversation with Joe Gacy and we were talking about the changes in CZW, one of the things that I do agree with DJ is that, he's trying to not just cater to one audience. He's trying to give people variety. So when you go to a CZW show, you're not just going to go see hardcore wrestling. You're not just going to see high flyers. You're going to see storytelling. You're going to see all the different flavors of ice cream, and hopefully one thing sticks out to you. But for a fan like myself, who didn't grow up like you did in the independent scene, watching independent wrestling, and it was just a WWE mark, for me, going into shows like that where they're able to give you a little bit of everything, it's like, wow, I never seen that before. I want to see more of that. I've never seen this guy before. I want to see more of him. And then little by little, I start growing as a fan and developing myself with the brand. And I think that's where CZW is right now. It's in a rebirth. And I like how you said that you're not trying to just cater to the hardcore fans, because you're trying to be the CZW of today. You're trying to be something different. You're going to try and make it the hottest brand, but never have you said by doing what they've done in the past.
Yeah, exactly. And variety in wrestling definitely matters as a whole. And to be able to show that you can not only just do high flying or hardcore, to be able to show that you can do everything, that's awesome. That's what I love about wrestling. That's definitely something I'm trying to work on myself. I want to show I'm not only just a high flyer, but if you put me in there with a brawler, if you put me in there with a heavy hitter, I'm going to slap and fight and punch and kick as much as I can while I'm in there. And same thing with being a technical wrestler. Like, it's definitely something I want to be good at everything.
Yeah.
Just because I'm that kind of guy, that kind of wrestler. So to show that you have that variety, man, it's a beautiful thing.
Enough variety, Gabriel, that you would one day be in Tournament of Death?
Honestly, I'd like to be a part of Tournament of Death someday.
Wow.
To be honest, I'd like to. I'm up for it, man. I'm up for it. Hell, you only get one life, man. You only get one life. Why not just go balls to the wall and say,
oh my gosh,
let's do it.
I'd be interested to see it. I can't lie. All right. So from CZW, we go on to another big promotion. It was very interesting to follow this journey, because you were showing us your journey through Instagram, through your feed, when you went to Beyond Wrestling. You had your tryout. You kept everybody informed of how it was going when you landed. And so fill us in verbally now, how was that whole experience?
That whole experience was definitely a learning experience, definitely stuff that I learned there that weekend that I'll carry with me throughout the rest of my wrestling career. I was blessed and honored to have been a part of a tryout where there were so many talented wrestlers and so many talented people, just people who wanted it. That's what I love. I love being in that environment where people are inspiring each other and motivating each other to be the best that they can very much be. Especially there, where it's like you have to be on top of your A game. There's no room for error. And like I said, I keep on going to the thing of being given this brass ring and being given the opportunity. That's like a perfect example of it, because I was given the opportunity that weekend, and every single time I had it, I was like, I'm gonna run with this, and I'm not gonna look back. I'm going to take my ball, and I'm going to run. I'm going to take my brass ring. I'm going to go as far as I can with this. And if I make it, I make it. And if I don't, I don't. I'm just here to really earn that. So to be a part of that weekend was, man, so inspiring. And especially to learn from guys like Dickinson and Janela. That weekend was just so much knowledge given to you at such a fast, rapid-fire time. But I'll be able to carry that with me throughout my wrestling career, because I want this. I really want this. I feel like I showed that weekend.
What are some of those learnings, or did they have any conversations with you about feedback, that those learnings that you're taking away from that Beyond weekend?
Definitely a lot of in-ring stuff, and showing that not only is wrestling just this of what we're seeing where people are going out and fighting, but showing that it's an art form, and your art form can be anything that you make it. That ring is our canvas, and it's our job as artists to go out there and paint our picture for what the audience will see. That inspires me to be the very best that I want to be. I want to be like a Matt Riddle. I want to be like a Zack Sabre Jr. I want to be like a Chris Dickinson.
Yeah.
That's always motivating and inspiring to me.
An overgoing theme in a lot of your responses today has been fighting at that high level. You admire people who at that level. That level, how is that level defined to you? How is success defined to you?
Man, I've had someone tell me that recently, where I'm always talking about like trying to break into that upper echelon. What success means to me, I mean, it means a lot of different things to a lot of people, but it definitely, in a way, means to me using all the things that you've learned in your years, all the things that you've, gone through and through trial and error, using that at the very high level, using it at such a high level and applying it in a way that people are going to look at and say, man, like, I love that. Like, I want to be like that. That inspires me. To be able to show people that, like I said, hey, you're not too young for this, you're not too old for this, to show that nothing's ever really impossible. That's what success means to me, to be able to show people that this is something that's attainable and that this is something that anyone can do. Anyone can aspire. As long as you put your heart into it, your mind into it, your soul into it, like, anything is possible, man.
Do you think that anybody could be a wrestler? Because for so long, I've always heard, like, this business is not for everybody.
In my opinion, man, pro wrestling's for everyone. Pro wrestling's for everyone. I've seen a lot of different things and a lot of different people in wrestling. It's inspiring to me to see different people from different walks of life come together for this weird thing where we all get in tight and get in the ring all wet and fight each other. It's definitely something that opens my eyes to be like, man, like, anybody could really do this. Like, literally anybody could do this. You look at even a guy like, I'm going to go back and say like Rikishi, who was, maybe at some point someone told him, yo, like, you're too big to do this. Right. Or if there was someone that went up to, let's say, a Spike Dudley, if they were like, man, like, you're too small to do this, which I've also heard before, like, this is for everybody,
Who's told you you're too small to do this?
Oh, I'm not going to get into names. I'm not going to get
But is it, okay, so, but is it fans? Is it promoters? Is it a wrestler?
Yeah, I've definitely had maybe not even a handful, just like a very, 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 very small number. I don't know, downsizing a little bit, but I've had a few people, whether it be wrestlers or fans, tell me, dude, like, you're too small to do this. Like, what makes me think that you can win? It's like, man, like, that doesn't make me, like, angry or sad. It makes me think, like, all right, like, how do I make my stuff more believable? How do I prove this person wrong? Like, how do I make these naysayers into believers? That's definitely something that motivates me in that way. So when people tell me that kind of stuff, if they're like, you're too small to do this, or you're not believable, it's like, all right, well, I'm going to go out and prove you wrong. I'm going to go out and show why I belong here, Always trying to break that glass ceiling.
Yeah, it's all in the art of storytelling too. You have the David and Goliath story. David was all about, mentally, how could he get to beat this big Goliath, And when I've seen you in the ring, I don't know if this is, I'm sure it's intentional at this point in talking to you, but, when you go one-on-one with a bigger guy, your speed is what really you focus on in telling that story. Like, the bigger guy may be bigger, but he's not faster than you. And because you're faster, you're going to be able to be one step ahead of him. So it makes it believable to me as a fan to be like, all right, this guy, Gabe could win this one, as long as he keeps up, and there's no way this big dude over here is going to be able to keep up with him. And eventually he's going to wear him out,
Exactly. And you could look at that. You could see that in like a guy like Rey Mysterio, who obviously he's not as big as most of the wrestlers, but he makes you believe that he can win. He has that heart. He has that courage behind him. So when people see that, it's like, man, that's inspiring. That's amazing. That's always something that I've always aimed to achieve with my wrestling as well. So thank you.
Yeah, no, I totally pay attention to it. Moving on from the Beyond weekend, you got your contract with them, right? You're now wrestling with them more frequently?
Yeah, I won the tryout, and that secured my spot to be on the first episode of Uncharted Territory, which I hope everyone's watching every week because, man, they are putting out some great content right now. Every week with Uncharted Territory and even with their monthly shows that are held on, I believe, Sundays. It's definitely been an honor to be a part of that. And like I said, to be a part of that locker room, like, man, it's just awesome.
Who's in that locker room right now that creates that ensemble at Beyond?
Definitely like the guys that I said, like Dickinson and Janela and David Starr, and also guys like Anthony Green and Josh Briggs, who've been such cool guys to be around, and a bunch of the other Beyond guys that are there as well.
Bro, and for anybody who's listening, I mean, the names that you're throwing out there, these are names who are wrestling at Evolve or wrestling at AEW. AEW is the hottest thing right now. Joey Janela's in there, and he's still in Beyond. Like, you know, you're in a pretty elite group.
Yeah, man. It's definitely like I said, even at just such a young age and at the level that I'm at, where I'm only...
By the way, how old are you? Because it keeps coming up.
20 years old.
You're not even old enough to drink. And the things that you've accomplished so far, it's crazy.
Oh, thank you, man.
Wow. Now, being so young, I always talk to this with Michael J. Putty because I remember Randy Orton coming into the business so young. Brock Lesnar coming into the business so young. And, you know, when we would talk, you know, back in the day, we would look at Randy Orton, world champion. I'm like, dude's only 23, you know. Last time we ran into the Evolve champion, Austin Theory, I was like, dude, you're like barely 21. Like, you just turned 20. Like, how do you guys, you know, and, you know, you're not even 21 yet. How are you so young? Have a good head on your shoulders about what's going on in the business, or have a good business acumen about yourself to really be goal oriented, to say, you know, this is why I'm accomplishing this here, and then I'm moving on to this, and then this is what's coming up next. You know, how is that? Because at 21, bro, I was partying, I was drinking, but you know, I was a frat guy, so that's what I was doing. So, but how is it that you're so focused on this right now?
Just something that I've always wanted. Like I said, it's always just been something that I knew I had to be a part of, especially even just all those years ago as a fan watching. I was just like, man, like, I want to be a part of this. So to have that drive now, it's definitely something that's always motivated me. And especially like that, like seeing other people who are my age or close to my age, it's definitely something that motivates me to be like, man, I need to get there somehow. Or I need to show that I can be at that level. I can perform at that level. Especially at such a young age, that's always something that's motivated me and inspired me. And plus, like, I hope I have, you know, another 20 or 30 years of, you know, wrestling and fighting everyone every week. So that's definitely something to look forward to. And it's definitely motivated me to be the best. And I want to show that I can be the best. Or one day I will be the best. You know, everyone should have that mentality.
Are you ever upset at what you're missing out because of wrestling? Because I'm sure it's very time consuming. It usually takes up a lot of your weekend time. So you're missing out on dates. You're missing out on first time hangouts, barbecues, family time, birthdays, anniversaries. You know, like, there's a lot that you're giving up to be at the level that you are in the business right now. Do you ever get upset about that, or you ever reminisce and maybe like, I need to create a better balance between wrestling and family life?
There's definitely been a lot of times where I've had to miss important family events or dates or just hanging out with friends. There's definitely been a lot of those times where it's like, man, I've missed out on this, and this. But at the end of the day, like, when it comes down to that kind of stuff, you have to really ask yourself, how bad do you really want this? Like, there's gonna be plenty more, and I know that when there are people on the road with bigger companies, that they have to miss that all the time.
Yeah.
So for me to just miss once a month or 2 or 3 times once a month, that's like, man, that's just that's just a little bit. Like, if I was in a bigger wrestling promotion, I'd have to be missing out on all these things, you know, all the time. Even if it was a holiday, if it's Christmas or birthdays, that kind of stuff, like, it'd be stuff that I have to miss all the time. So to me, it really speaks to me as, well, how bad do I really want this? Like, how far am I willing to go for this? I feel like I do show that every time that I'm out there, how bad I really want it. So
Are you single, by the way, or you have a girlfriend?
Gabriel Skye's on the market.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm sure that makes it a little easier because then you don't have a girl breathing down your neck. Why are you going to take me out? Can we stop going to wrestling shows for a date?
I think it would be pretty cool to bring a girl to a wrestling show just as a date to chill and stuff like that, but that would be a pretty interesting date.
And the Shot of Wrestling should be there to document it.
Yeah, hell yeah. Why not, man? Why not?
Do you think it might be easier to date someone in the business, though?
Man, that's tough. I don't know. I mean, traveling and being away from each other with someone that isn't in the business is kind of tough. But then to do it with someone in the business might also be a little tough. I'm not sure. I haven't had the experience of dating someone that's in the business. I know I'm in the business. It's a little wonky, as I said before. But I don't know. Maybe traveling with them might make it a little easier. But I'm not sure. Hard to speak on.
Now, I have to ask. I mean, is there anybody in the business right now that you would be interested in dating?
I'm not going to call anyone out.
It's not calling it. I actually think it would be a flattering statement. Like if you were like, yeah, I think Maria Manick, it's a beautiful, beautiful woman. I would love to date Maria Manick.
She's a beautiful woman. She's a beautiful woman.
She'd tear me apart. I'm also fearful of her, so I wouldn't say Maria Manick. But
oh man, not sure to be quite honest. A lot of them are my I mean, I work with a lot of different people, so.
We'll leave that unanswered for now. Next time you come on a Shot of Wrestling, they'll be prepared to answer that question. As we're getting ready for the summertime, the biggest party in the summer is Summer on Smash. BCW is returning to the Bronx at St. Helena's Gym. Now, at the last BCW show at Anniversary, you actually earned your spot to be a regular for BCW. And you went against one of your brothers, Tristan Ty. How was that? It had to have been a little bit emotional.
Was definitely a roller coaster. Definitely a roller coaster. To be able, like I said, to wrestle my brother, one of my best friends, Tristan Ty, at BCW, you know, at that show was awesome, and it was an honor to be able to have our first match in front of like a live crowd. To have that kind of match too, where it was like kind of showing, like I said, like who wants this more, like who wants this the most, especially at that caliber, was like, man, this is awesome. And especially to be on the same show as, you know, my brothers Dom and Chris. That was really cool to have that match in front of that crowd with you know, Dom and Chris watching and everyone else in the back watching, showing like, yo, like I'm here to stay. I hope it sent a message.
You know, when I saw the build for you and Tristan, I was like, wait a second, only one of them is going to get that contract? I'm like, these are two talented guys right now, like that BCW would be thrilled to have both of them on their roster. Like, how could they both not make it, you know? And then being ringside and calling that, I was like, I don't know which way it's going to go. And I don't know, you know, who would BCW benefit more of? You know, Tristan Ty has already gone and done more things. You're doing more things. I mean, it's a hard match to call. It was great to be excited for you for winning, but at the same time, at the end, I was like, but Tristan Ty, man, he deserves a spot too.
I know, right, man? You know, yeah, it's crazy, man. And I hope that at some point he gets to come back to BCW as well, and as well with Kono. You know, I'd like to see Tristan Ty and Kono.
Don't bring up that name to me. He says
Kono?
No. Forget Kono. He said he hates a Shot of Wrestling. He said it to my face.
Wow.
Shot to the heart. I'll never forget it. Kono.
I don't know, man. Maybe he's just showing that he's above the rest. Like our group name. Maybe he's trying to show he's above the rest, man. But yeah,
I love Kono. No, it's
hopefully
cool.
they both at some point get to come back.
Yeah,
definitely.
Absolutely. You're part of this like really interesting group from FTW, like the East Coast Syndicate guys, you know?
Yeah.
You guys all get together. You guys are all coming up in the business. Great talent. It's kind of weird sometimes that so much talent is in this little small group, and you guys are accomplishing so much together and separately, which is pretty awesome. One of the things that Dom and Chris share with me is like one of your traditions after matches, you guys go to the Jackson Hole.
Shout out to Jackson.
Yeah. Oh, the Jackson
Burgers.
Diner. Yeah.
Yo, the Jackson near what is it? I think it's close. It's closer to La Boom, but it's only like a 10-minute ride from the Elks Lodge or anywhere in Queens. So usually, or even if we're not in Queens, we'll just chill at a diner. If it's Jackson or it's Wawa, which man, I love Wawa. Don't even get me started on Wawa. Woof, woof. But yeah, we'll just usually after a show just chill, have some good food, and see where the night takes us. Nights sometimes don't usually end until like 5 a.m. So
wow,
that's what I tell you about East Coast Syndicate.
I love you guys. Well, Gabriel, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to end it on this one note, because if social media is huge right now, it's a lot of it has to reflect of what's going on in professional wrestling, because it allows us to be so connected to the talent, the promotions, and what's going on in our culture. On your Instagram, you have this quote, which I really like: "Stand for something or die for nothing." What does that mean to you?
That means to me that you should do everything with your heart, everything with conviction, everything with your soul. And there was a great quote from Eddie Guerrero that he said, I should look at it right now, where he was talking about doing everything with your heart. And that's something that also really spoke to me. And in a way, I tried to reflect that through my quote on Instagram or my quote on social media. His quote was, "Follow your heart. Because if you work where your heart is, you're going to give it 100%. If your heart's not into what you do, you'll never be happy." So hopefully I was able to get that across in my own way through that quote, which is something that I've always tried to live by, and something I try to live by now, especially in wrestling, where you have to do everything with your heart. You have to do everything with your soul. And if you're not going to do that, then it means nothing. So that's what that means to me.
Awesome, brother. With that said, there's no better way to say thank you so much for joining us on A Shot of Wrestling. Like we said it in the beginning, one of the fastest rising stars. If you have not watched Gabriel Skye in action, then you need to, because this guy is on a rocket and he's going places, and hopefully it's to a wrestling show near you so you guys could check him out. We didn't get to mention you at Barclays Center, by the way. This man performed in Barclays Center in front of a sold-out crowd. Talk about a rocket strapped on you. You had a match. It was insane. We'll leave that to another show. Follow him on social media. If we wanted to stay tuned into your journey, where could we do that?
You guys can do that on Instagram at FOFGabeSky, and also on Twitter, same social media handle at FOFGabeSky, and also on Facebook, which is straight up Gabriel Skye. And yeah, my YouTube as well is also Gabriel Skye, but keep on supporting the brand and keep on supporting independent professional wrestling, because you never know what's going to happen, especially now where the industry is headed nowadays. So thank you guys. Be able to continue supporting independent professional wrestling. That's my message.
One thing that we do know that's going to be coming up is Last Call, so stick around. All right, buddy?
Hell yeah. Stick around for that, guys. You guys got to listen to this. Yo, this is a chance, Fight or Flight, Gabriel Skye, and I just want to thank you for listening to Last Call today with me and my buddy Green Man and Michael J. Putty. Thank you guys for tuning in and keep supporting this brand. Thank you guys.
All right, family, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of A Shot of Wrestling, the interviews. But interviews, they're just part of the conversation. Make sure you follow and listen to our weekly podcast hosted by Michael J. Putty. And lately, it's been a guest of his choosing, whether it's Mark Schwann, Pete Rosado, Eric Jaden, whoever it will be. There's always someone in the studio with Michael J. Putty as they go over the week in wrestling news, the week in wrestling reviews of top programs in WWE, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, whatever it is, whatever is affecting the wrestling community in that week, we will go over at a Shot of Wrestling podcast. You can find us wherever you can find podcasts, especially on Podbean, SoundCloud, or iTunes. Make sure you give us a like, subscribe to it, and share with anybody who, whether they are or not a professional wrestling fan, would just like to be part of that conversation. It was a great pleasure to talk to Gabriel Skye. Like I mentioned in the interview, I've only known him for a year, but you could tell when you meet someone who has something special like he does, he has the determination, the heart, and the will to accomplish all of his dreams. And all he really wants to do is be that example for everybody who has told you that you can't do it. He wants to be that example for everybody to say, yes, you can. Wrestling is for everybody. And you know what? Like we say on the show, wrestling brings us together. So thank you, professional wrestling, for bringing us someone into our lives like Gabriel Skye. Keep an eye on him. Keep an eye on close friends of ours, the East Coast Syndicate, that group of young talent, young, hungry talent, who is pretty much setting a new standard for professional wrestling in our area. Make sure you give him a follow and say what's up next time you see him on a show. That's pretty much it for me today. If you like what you're listening and you want to hear more, make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video with anybody and everybody. So for Gabriel Skye, remember, if you're ready and willing, I'm able. Good night.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time I need to announce it's last call at the bar.
Oh. All right, everybody, we have made it to the end of the episode, and it's last call. We still have Mr. Fight or Flight himself, Gabriel Skye, with us. Now, Gabe, this is how you play. I ask the questions. The first thing out of your mind is the first thing you should answer. Are you ready?
I'm ready, man. I'm ready.
And away we go. Other than wrestling, what is your favorite sport?
I'm going to have to go with baseball, man. Always love baseball.
What's your favorite team?
Yankees.
Oh.
Yankees or Mets. Very hard.
Yankees
very hard.
and Mets?
It's very hard to come from a family that loves
I don't know.
both teams.
It has to be one or the
So
other.
hard, man.
All right. What is your spirit animal?
I'm going to say a lion.
What is the worst job you've ever had?
I worked as kitchen staff for a restaurant here on the island, washing dishes and stuff like that. That job sucked pretty bad. Sucked really bad, actually. Yeah.
What is your favorite karaoke song?
I don't do karaoke often, but if I'm going to have to choose, I'm going to choose Don't Stop Believing.
Okay, that's
Stop
a very
Believing,
popular
that's an easy one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some high notes in there. You got to be careful, but it's a cool.
Oh, yeah.
What's the best feature on a woman?
Assets. Assets, man.
Who's
Like
your
Billy Gunn said, I'm an ass man.
Who is your celebrity crush?
I'll choose Haley Williams. I love Haley Williams. She's cool. She's cool.
If you can change anything about yourself, what would it be?
Well, I'd like to be bigger. Everyone wants to be 6 feet and jacked. So if I had to change anything about myself, I guess it would be that, you know.
Who was your mark out wrestler growing up?
I mean, I always marked out for like CM Punk and Daniel Bryan and Jericho and those kinds of guys when I was growing up, just because I could relate to those guys. So those were always guys I freaked out for.
Cool. What is the weirdest thing you've seen in wrestling?
Ooh, oh man. I mean, Eric Jaden's antics are up there. Eric Jaden's antics are up there. So I'm gonna put that pretty high on the list.
Yeah.
I mean, other than that, there's a bunch of weird stuff you see in wrestling now, but
I mean, his finisher is the prison rape. So I mean, that's pretty weird.
It's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting as a wrestler.
Finally, if your career ended tomorrow, what would you like to be remembered for?
I'd like to be remembered for doing this at such a high level at a young age and making an impact for not only myself, but for other people. You know, representation matters. I'm a young 20-year-old Puerto Rican kid from Queens and then eventually Long Island. So I'd like to be remembered for making an impact and showing everyone, like, hey, like, nothing's impossible. You know, if you set your mind to it and you work hard enough, you can do anything.
and you're making the best of it. Thanks, Gabe, for joining us on A Shot of Wrestling. I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot more of you very soon.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and I hope so, man.
Hey, baby, I hear the bell ringing, hip tosses and body slams. Oh, my. And maybe you seem a bit confused. Yeah, baby, but I got you pinned. Ha, 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 ha. But I don't know what to do when I see them with that golden case. They're cashing it in. Authority all in my face. What is a man to do? Good night, everybody.